welcome to the 6th episode of the Dolbear Web Show. We have, of course, our usual Yard and Brett Heng for Gibraltar. Our guests include today Gary Powell from the Libertines and Bob Knight, who's played the likes of CeeLo Green and Michael Bublé. Let's get this show on the road. Come on, let's go.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Jill. Very interesting introduction that was.
I know, something different.
It certainly was. I didn't know that's where the stick lived. Anyway.
Gary's frozen in time.
Gary's frozen. I do apologise. Gary, we've started. You can move.
You have to count him in. 1, 2, 3. Gary.
Yeah, and I said to my mum, I would never do that again. I promise. Never do that again. All right.
So,
anyway, where were we?
So,
where are we?
Everybody, please welcome to the sofa today, Gary Powell and Bob Knight. Okay.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Even though we kind of used to be like
we used to live together.
Yeah, we did.
Excuse me, hang on. Can we get on with the show, please, if you don't mind?
Don't you know who I think I am?
Gary.
Hi.
You've just come back from Thailand this morning.
Yes. Well, last night.
Yeah. Okay. From working with a new album with the Libertines.
Completed.
Done.
Yay.
Excellent.
It's done. I'm so happy.
Well, I know the Libertines gig came from after you were working with Eddie Grant. So how did it come about? And tell us a little bit.
Well, Pete and Carl with the Libs. You'll have to excuse me because lack of sleep and all that type of stuff. I do kind of go out, but we've already established that, so I'm going to stop doing that now.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. Yeah, Pete and Carl. They were. There was a previous incarnation of the Libertines, and a bunch of guys. Scarborough Steve. Everyone's got a weird name in the Libertines. Mr. Razcox, the cellist, Mr. Lombard, which is John Hassel, who ended up coming back. They all left, and it was only Pete and Carl who were left in the band. And they had just got themselves a new manager, Banny Pucci, who was working for East West Records as the business affairs manager. And I was being paid via East West Records to work for Eddie Grant. And she found out that I was doing Eddie Grant and my previous, all the stuff that I did beforehand, and wanted to introduce me to Pete and Carl because I lived around the corner from the pub that they used to go to. So, and that's how we met. We met in the Filthy McNasty's on Amwell Street.
Wow.
It was our local.
Okay, did you understand all that, Bob?
Yeah, I know that boozer as well.
Yeah, of course you do.
It's a great boozer.
Yeah.
So how long did you, was you, the first stint, if you like, with the Libertines, how long did that, until the wheels come off the bus?
I think the wheels were never on the bus.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. There were never any wheels on that bus. Whoa. No, it was actually the first 3 months was just pretty much just hard, solid work. We rehearsed. The first studio we went into was Islington Arts Factory, and that was literally by virtue of the fact that we were drinking David Nivens's at Filthy McNasty's, and then they started playing me some of their early sessions, and it was literally. We were literally just hanging out. It had nothing to do with like future endeavors. There was no like talk of like let's form a band, let's take over the world, all of that type of stuff. There was nothing like that. And then all of a sudden it was just like, well, why don't we just go into the studio and have a jam? Johnny, I was going to call him Johnny Barville. Johnny Burrell, he was the bass player in the band originally. It was me, Pete, Carl, and Johnny Burrell. But he only did a couple of sessions with us before he decided he wanted to take over the world as Iggy Pop.
Okay.
Sorry, Johnny, but you did. Yeah, so then it was just the three of us, and we rehearsed together for 3 months before we. It was really funny. The first gig that we played in front of a record company, because then I had moved to London. I was teaching in the States after graduating and stuff, and I pretty much I blew all of my money, so I ran home because I was a bit skint. Right. And then I got fired from a few other jobs, and I ended up selling colour advertising on Old Street.
Can you have no branding going on here, please?
I'm not selling. Yeah, it was just selling colour advertising on Old Street, which was just terrible. But it gave me enough money to kind of like go around and try and seek other playing gigs and stuff. And so I was paying for studio times and so forth because Pete and Carl, they literally didn't have any money. Them being literary artists, they didn't have jobs and they didn't have anywhere to live, and they were just couch surfing around Islington and Holloway Road and so forth. And we rehearsed for 3 months before we had our first gig. And the first gig that we played in for the record companies, I didn't have a drum kit. And they managed to get a friend of theirs to lend us a drum kit. And we played at the Rhythm Factory in Whitechapel. And the drum kit was quite big, but it was terrible. The tom heads were all broken. And the cymbals were off a metal stand with ropes attached to them.
Oh,
so every time I hit them,
Wow.
the cymbals would just swing.
Oh, my.
So I started playing a hat cymbal, and then it was literally just playing asteroids, dodging cymbals, hitting me in the head. And we got signed off the back of that. That was the gig that got us signed.
Amazing.
Okay,
And it's
great.
been downhill ever since.
Oh, wow.
Sideways ever since.
Bob Knight.
Sideways ever since, yeah.
So, Bob, with a name like Bob Knight, I guess you were always destined to go into the music industry.
I don't know what you were going to say. Then. I was a bit nervous then.
Well, I thought, I read Bob Knight and I was like, whoa, you got the coach for the Indiana University basketball team.
Yeah, I get that when I go through a costume every time. They're like, you look a bit younger. Less cross.
Okay, let's keep this on track, please. Okay.
All right.
Bob, so not only are you a UK session drummer and worked with a whole host of artists, but you're also a musical director. How does that role differ when you're in charge of everything on gigs?
Well, I am, I suppose, but I think of myself more as a traditional band leader than a musical director. And really
Mean and nasty.
Well, yeah, mean and nasty.
Buddy Rich.
Yeah.
Taking all the money. No, get off the bus. No, I just put together a really good group of musicians and I let them play. You know, I don't really I wouldn't dictate to a guitar player what parts I want him to play or to a bass player. I pick great players and I get to play with them, so it's a real advantage. And my other, responsibilities is just trying to protect them from all the bull stuff that goes on in emails and phone calls and between labels and artists and all that, before you get in a room with instruments and play music, So that's the main difference really. You get to pick who you play with, and,
Right. Sounds good to
and
me.
people buy the first pint afterwards. So
Wow.
it's kind of,
But you're still the godfather though, aren't you?
well, you try. Don't you?
Damn right, baby. All right.
Well, this is to both of you because you're a DJ.
Yes.
Okay, and you're an MD as well.
Yes, I was an MD until before I went to Thailand.
Okay.
I was MDing a girl called Iris Gold, and she's playing Hyde Park with a bunch of people this year. But because I'm going to be doing other stuff with a bunch of people this year as well, I kind of
Can't do it.
It's hard to balance all that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you because
Yeah.
you obviously run the agency,
Yeah.
which is a successful agency for musicians. I mean, 2 questions. Number one, do you think that this is important in today's music society that you have to be able to adjust and do different things? And number 2, time management. How do you find the time to do that? I mean, what do you think, Rob?
I'll answer that first if you want. I think that you do. I think most people, musicians, regardless of what instrument they play, need more than just playing. More than just to be a guitar player or a singer or whatever, to sustain a decent living, because it's becoming more and more difficult to get paid. People want to pay less, get you to work for more. People want to stiff you out of royalties. I'm sure you've come across all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Buyouts of stuff, strange £1 buyouts for things that didn't, that used to make proper coin. And I think the reason is, there's too many people trying to do it. It's not a massive industry, is it? It's a small industry. You always come back to seeing the same people and the same faces. But now there's loads more colleges, certainly in the south. There's another 600 people or whatever, mostly rhythm section players who graduate every year, who've been told that when they finish, there's a gig. And so people are taking advantage of that. Higher up the level, plus with a knock-on of labels not making the same kind of money they used to make because of the CD thing and streaming. That I think if you just play an instrument and certainly as soon as you've graduated and maybe for a long time, you'll have a lot of downtime. It's simple.
Yeah.
Nobody's touring 365 days a year, thank God, but they're not. So it's a few guys who maybe hop from one tour to another. But it's not, nobody's as busy as they look on Twitter or Instagram or anything.
Well, that's why they're on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Exactly. So I think it's important, and whether that other thing you have is a teaching situation or is an MD thing is not that much of it, is there? So it's not like, hey, I'll do that as well. But if it's a teaching thing you've got, or a DJing thing that you've got, or you know, anything really, or a production thing, or a writing thing, or something where you can still be creative and, you know, and be yourself, but hopefully, you know, make some kind of a financial return, you know, because it's all based in London, you know, where we are, and it's a really expensive place to live. So it's, you know, you want a career. I want a career. I want to keep doing that, you know, moving upwards, and then at some point I'll stop, you know, or slow down a bit and look back and go, oh, that went pretty well, great, but I think there's too much, you know, there's a lot of downtime.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because from a popular feature we did last show, Young Drum of the Year, we've been requested to show another 1 minute section of the 2015's Young Drum of the Year, which I know, Bob, I think you judged that.
There were some brilliant judges.
Yes, brilliant judges. Bob was one of them, okay. So let's go over and let's watch this clip of the Young Drum of the Year 2015.
Cool.
Thank you. Excellent. Well done. Okay, one more question for you, Gary.
Where'd you get your hat?
Okay, where did you get your hat? That's a cool.
Actually, I'm going back to the previous subject.
Sorry,
I don't stand a chance. Not a chance.
No.
Who's hosting this show? Is it Bob or Mike?
Going back to the previous question, prior to working with the Libertines in Thailand, I was working in Tokyo with a fashion designer, Takeo Kikuchi, and this hat is a Takeo Kikuchi. I wrote the music for his show and then appeared in his show for Japan Fashion Week. And I've been doing a lot more writing of music outside of playing in bands. So, you know, so it's kind of, it's a damn good question.
You know,
it might be a bit difficult. I mean, he's in Tokyo and I'm in a studio with you in Acton.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you a question about the New York Dolls.
Yes.
How did that come about, and how was that?
That was actually that came about quite easily. I mean, the booking agent for the Libertines, historically speaking, was always Russell Warby, and Russell Warby's just a great guy. Always looked out for the interest of the band, and not just the band, the individual members in the band. He was just, I still consider him to be a very, very close friend of mine. I remember once being out in Holland after. No, I can't say that bit of it. But being in Holland and him making a phone call to me with reference to him falling out with James Endicott, the A&R agent that signed us, who signed the Strokes as well. And we just had this long conversation, and it was, the relationship was never just Libertine orientated. It was always on a one-to-one basis. And when we were recording the second album, I remember it was about 11 o'clock at night, and we recorded the second album. Oh my goodness, I remember. It was at Metropolis in Chiswick, and I was sat in the bar for a change, having a whiskey, and then I got a phone call and from Russell, and Russell said, I got a gig for you, do you want to play with the New York Dolls? Of which I just read, yeah, sure. And then I got in a car to go home, and I went, whoa, wait a minute, what did I just agree to? And that's how I got the gig.
Oh,
It was
wow.
it was as simple as that. Then they sent me the music and we rehearsed. And one day before the show at Terminal Studios, of which I managed to get my drum tech to help out and set up the kit. 10 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the dolls to turn up, and I'm just like, oh,
What time did they roll in?
They rolled in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat there until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they started asking me to play a bunch of stuff that I'd learnt the whole of the dolls' back catalogue, and we didn't play any of it that evening.
Oh no.
And then I found out it was going to be filmed the next day, so...
It's amazing how often that kind of thing goes on, isn't it? Like,
Okay, Jill.
frightening.
Right, so we're now going to go over to a Mike Dolbear Web Show favourite, which is Yard. Over to Yard, what have you got for us?
Hello Mike and Jill, you're back at Yard's Vintage Drum Yard in Yard's Yard. Right, today the topic is what annoys me in today's world of drumming and music in general. So, I think for me personally that we're not enjoying drumming as I think we should. It seems to be more about the technical side of drums, what you own, why you own it, can you sell it on, is it an investment, which is all, to me personally, is absolute nonsense. It's about buying a kit, choosing a set of cymbals by actually going to a shop and trying them out, and getting in a band with a few mates. You go off and you either play covers or write your own stuff with a mixture of covers and your own songs, and then just having a laugh and seeing how it goes. That's how all bands start. And if you want to know the sort of band I'm thinking of that fill me with pleasure, is you should be in a band that is like the Faces, the Small Faces, the Black Crows, bands that actually look like they enjoy doing what they're doing, and then just having a good laugh with friends. And the more fun you have, the better you play. It just seems that everyone seems to be wanting to make money rather than make music and having a good time. So that's my biggest bone of contention at the moment, is that we're too bogged down with trivia about values, serial numbers, and who's got a cheap pair of sticks and who makes her own moon gel, which drives me nuts. And now that all the stores are closing down, you can't actually get to a shop to try out cymbals because they've all closed down because you're buying from abroad, which is fair enough, but don't complain that you can't get to anywhere to try your stuff out. And to buy cymbals without testing them first, to me, just seems absolutely ridiculous. And that is my personal opinion on that matter. But what you do is obviously up to yourselves. So apart from that, that's really it for me, I think. It's just that them against us with shopkeepers, when it's not them against us, it's a case of mutual respect and mutual loyalty. And if you show a shop loyalty, they'll show you the same. And when you're in trouble, they'll help you out. But when they're all gone, you're on your own, I'm afraid. And that's me signing off at the Vintage Drum Yard.
Excellent. Thank you, Yard. Well done.
Right, ready, we're going to go over to the stick now, and what we're going to be playing for you today are two sets of cymbals. So we got cymbals on kit A over on this side. No, you can listen. It's all right, Gary, it's all right.
Drums are loud. I don't know why I'm a drummer at the best of times, because I find drums loud. Sorry.
So kit A is some modern cymbals,
Right.
and kit B is vintage cymbals. What's going to happen is once the stick has played them, I'm going to get to see what you think, and then we will review all. So Lux, the stick to play kit A, please.
Oi! Yeah!
Go on, stick.
And this is kit B. Right.
Go on.
Great.
So, before we reveal, which one did you like, A or B, and the sound of the cymbals? So there.
I'm going B.
I'm going B as
B
well.
for Bob.
Yeah, I'm going B.
What do you think? Which one do you think is which?
The B are the old school ones. I
Yeah,
would
because
say.
but the ride sounded a lot drier.
Yeah, it's got, and it's
Yeah.
a bit like, the bell sounds like it belongs to the cymbal. Like A, I thought the bell sounded like a whole another cymbal, you know, and a lot of modern
Very
ones
interesting.
seem
Okay.
to sound like that.
Well, let's
So ready? We're going to reveal all now.
I hope we're right.
hold your pose.
All right, so you can turn around now and have a look. You can
Guys.
unbreathe.
And I said, bangers, you big numpty. You big numpty.
It's always him, isn't
Oh,
it?
God blimey.
So yeah, look at this, guys. You got that spot on.
So kit
Look
A.
at that. Anyway, we could do this for a living.
Yeah, so kit A are the male cymbals. These are a pair of 14-inch Byzance dark hi-hats with a Byzance 22-inch sand ride. And kit B are the Zildjians from the 1960s.
There you
The
go.
hi-hats
We
are
had to get that
14-inch,
right.
That's where mine was.
and the rides are 20-inch.
Nice.
Excellent.
So-
Stick looks like it's put a bit of weight on, Mike.
Do you think so? What, since he's been standing there?
Well, since the last episode.
Well, I think the stick needs to leave. Actually,
Yeah.
Stick, go on, get out of here. I thought, yeah.
Sling her up. Sling your stick.
Yeah, go on.
Where do you get that outfit from? And do you ever have any trouble from the Daredevil being a superhero?
Okay, so after that, we need a break on the stage here because the boys are desperate to go for a wee, I think.
Ablutions,
So,
baby,
anyway,
ablutions.
so we're going to over to
Major.
you, Brent. Please tell us what you've got this week for Gibraltar's special. So it's over to you.
Hey Mike and Jill, thanks again for having me on the show. I'm Brent Barnett, brand manager for Gibraltar Hardware. I was fortunate enough to sit down and have a conversation with Van Romain, who's the drummer for Enrique Iglesias. We talked about everything from his gear to touring with Enrique. Check out a few clips. The current rack that you're using with Enrique, it's a pretty involved setup. What kind of inspiration did you get to choose that type of design?
I wanted to do something different, but functional and not too over the top. I had seen a lot of, crazy, curved bars coming over from the top, which look awesome, but however, that's not really what Enrique is. I wanted it to look classy and cool looking, but not overtake the whole stage like what's monstrosity in the middle of the stage, So I work with my drum tech. We talked about some ideas that you've done with other people. And actually, that rack in itself, like the production guy who does the lights, and Enrique looked at the stuff and he goes, oh man, that's awesome. Can we also do that for the keyboard rig, the percussion rig, and the DJ? So then it was off to the races, But again, I just think it looks fantastic but again, it's functional on top of it,
Now I would love to hear a little bit about your job as the musical director for Enrique.
Enrique was in need of an MD, and Enrique's a guy, he really likes to have his people. He doesn't like a bunch of new faces coming in for every tour. He likes to have his band, and it's still all about him. He's the artist and all that stuff, but I think it made sense for him because his last MD left to find someone that knows the chemistry of his band already. I've been playing drums with him for I don't know how many, 5 or 6 years before he asked me to take over as MD. So now in the case of Enrique, I actually share the creative process. So with a producer of his, Carlos Bacar, who works on his records, tracks all his vocals, and he also comes on the road with us. So for me, it's a combination of hiring talent and thinking about new ideas, making the arrangements for the show, and working the songs up from the recorded version to what's going to work live. A lot of records these days are recorded with DJs, programmers, which I'm also completely open-minded to, and that whole side of the music world. But Enrique's show is not him and a guy with a laptop sitting there. That's not what he's looking for. So there's always going to be a band involved, and that's pretty much what it is, and then usually dealing with personal issues from time to time.
Oh, so you become kind of HR too.
Well, it's my job that he has a band that he loves and he's comfortable with, and he doesn't have time to deal with, if somebody has a hangnail and doesn't feel like playing that day.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess like anyone in any business, I look for people that are
motivated to do this kind of thing in the long run, not just the best musician or, somebody who's, I'm looking at what they're after. If it's someone who's incredibly talented and they're talking to every different record label and they want to get their own solo thing happen, and I'm like, that might not be the best person for this family right now. So try to keep all that stuff in mind. I think that's probably the case in any business. So.
When would you use a rack versus when would you use stands?
Most of the work I'm doing is kind of bigger production stuff as far as the work I'm doing, However, I moved to New York, playing in clubs, playing with different singer-songwriters, people when they didn't have deals and stuff, and I still, that's still my passion, is playing small gigs, and I don't care how big the place is, all I care about is the music, So, and a lot of those cases, if there are 4 bands in a night, I'm not going to be carrying a rack and setting it up, The good thing about a rack, it is easy to get more stuff off the stage quicker. You can grab both sides of, again, I never use a crossbar. I always have 2 different sides of the rack with kind of larger feet to kind of make things stable, and including mounted hanging floor toms. But in those cases, you can pick the whole thing up and move it off. But if I'm using a 4-piece kit with a couple cymbal stands and maybe a laptop or something like that, I would tend to use traditional hardware.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, guys. I'm not too sure whether I even want to go down this avenue with you. But okay, guys, we've got to this show and tell section. Right. So, Gary, no.
Oh, you brought the same thing as me.
Gary, there's children in the audience, please. So let's have a look at what you brought for your show and tell.
Okay, well, it's
down
where
here,
did I put it? Oh, it's down here.
down
I'm
here,
sorry,
yeah.
I forgot. I bought 2 things.
Wow.
They normally come in pairs. Sorry, brother.
Being a drummer, I bought a pair of sticks, and these are Vic Firth Tom Unks. Now, back in the States, I was a member of an organization called the Cadets of Bergen County, which then became just the Cadets. Originally from an outgrowth of a church back in Garfield, New Jersey called the Holy Name Cadets, and I have my Holy Name tattoos on my arm because I'm a bit of a geek. But I use these sticks to warm up with because they are big and chunky, and I call them chop builders. You can play, if you can play with these, you can play with anything. 20 minutes on these means you can play for 40 minutes with anything else. Okay. Makes a pair of 5As look a beast. So I kind of thanked all of my instructors back in the day, the likes of Tom Unks, Willie Higgins, Brent Montgomery, all of these guys back in the States who actually helped me figure out interpretation, because I believe that interpretation is the basis of all playing of any instrument there is. If you can't interpret properly, then you're not actually communicating your instrument properly at all. And that is the cleverest I will ever sound in my entire life.
That is very good, though. Very good. Did you practice that?
No, I didn't. I haven't been sleeping. Practice. Even if I did practice it, I would have forgotten it.
And you've got 2 things.
Being me,
yes,
back to normal. I'm a huge lover of all things Japanese culture. When even prior to going out to Japan with the Libs, the first time we went out, when we played Summer Sonic back in 2001, I was a huge fan of Japanese films. Not so much, what was that one with Pigsy? Which I thought was just kind of like,
Monkey.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought that was just sodomizing Japanese culture. I hated that. But prior to that, my dad was a huge fan of the Water Margins, and I loved the Water Margins. Yeah. One of my favorite books of all time is the 47 Ronin, true story about honor and betrayal, blah, 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 all of the rest of it. And an outgrowth of that is just the liking to read Japanese manga. Not the smutty stuff, mind, but just Japanese manga. Part of the reason as well is because being left-handed, I get to read a book properly from right to left.
I understand your pain.
Yes, excellent. Wow.
So there's my 2 things.
Okay.
Great.
Bob Knight, what have you got?
I brought this. This hangs proudly above my practice kit home. It's all fallen
Show
apart.
the camera, Bob.
This one?
There you go, yeah.
Beautiful. So that's it says, Bob, all the best, Steve Gadd.
I never signed that.
And Steve Gadd has exactly the same thing above his practice kit, but it says, Steve, all the best, Bob Knight.
Of course he does.
And that's how we roll. So there's a pair of sticks in there and a head, which he very kindly, our friend of the show, Yard, hooked me up. Gadd was playing at Ronnie's, 2010, I want to say, maybe 11. and I was supposed to be rehearsing, so I didn't buy a ticket. And then my rehearsal was cancelled, so I called the Yamaha, can you get me in? And they said, no, we can't get you in. And then I called Yard and I said, can you get me in? And he said, no, I can't get you in. And then he called me back the day after and he said, actually, he doesn't have a tech for this gig because Yard was out doing Annie Lennox. So he said, but you can go and tech for him if you want, and then you can stay for the show. I was like, well, that's like 100,000 times better than just going to the gig. So I went down to Ronnie's at 2 and the black kit was there. So I set it up best as I could. I played the same kit, so I set it up best the way I could. And then he arrived around 4 with his cymbals and just hung out and sound checked with the band. And then he had me play the kit so he could hear how it sounded in the house, which was a bit of a buzz roll situation.
I can imagine.
And then we just hung out. I walked him back to the hotel, and then he said, I'm not really sure the way back to the club. So I said, well, I'll meet you back here at 7 and walk you back to the club. So he was staying just on the Shaftesbury Avenue. So I met him at the hotel. And then walked back through Soho, straight down the middle of Old Compton Street, past, and every bar had a drummer in it, and everybody was going, that looks like Bob Knight, but that definitely looks like Steve Gadd. It can't be Bob Knight. Proper like, all right. So I had a great time. Yeah, so it's a nice memory, and Yard got the head for me. Steve Gadd gave me the sticks on the day. And, you know, I'm a big fan, so
yeah,
it was
brilliant.
just a nice.
That is genius.
Yeah, it was a great day.
I was at that gig as well.
You know.
Because Steve snare busted.
That's right, he got me
and
out
he
on
showed
stage.
you out, got you up on the stage. I was there.
Oh, it's Bob here, he's going to fix my snare drum. Yeah, hang on a minute.
Hang on, just change my trousers.
Yeah.
Anyway,
great.
Jill.
Right, so news time. Just so we got a couple of things today. First is late of the Pier drummer, Ross Dawson, has died in a tragic accident. It's not quite clear what's happened yet, but hopefully we'll have more on that soon.
Terrible.
On the Steve Gadd thing, we're actually going to say a big happy birthday to Steve Gadd for his 70th.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Yeah.
Same as Mike.
Same as Mike.
Steve's actually
Younger.
a little bit younger than me. Yeah. He looks a lot better than me as well.
And recently, or a while ago, The Edge from U2 fell off the edge of the stage.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, actually, of what if you guys have either done it yourselves. Because Rob and Guy was on one of our pilot shows, and he actually talked about how he decided to do something different and poked himself in the eye.
That's different.
And I didn't know if it wasn't you guys directly, but you know, if someone around you on a gig or something has done something really weird, injured themselves, something out of the ordinary.
Ooh, wow. Come on then.
I got two for you. I once was on a gig that was pretty heavy, and a guy came on stage to do the old stage dive thing, and as he ran, he got the bass player's lead caught around his foot, and he went, and the bass just went. As the guy was still there, no bass. The bass is like sailing into the crowd, it smashed him in the face. So that was pretty good to watch. Like, oh, should I stop playing? Nah,
just carry on.
I fell over on stage once, which was really embarrassing. I used to play with Alison Moyet for a long time, and we did Graham Norton. And she was over on the couch being interviewed, and there's a B stage where the band is. So they get you on during the interview, so it's all very quietly, and tiptoeing through the tulips. And I tripped getting onto the riser. Well, actually, you know, like cables roll.
Yeah.
So I stood on a cable, and it rolled, and I went straight into the kit, knocked the whole kit off the thing, smashed my face into the high. And everybody stopped, and they had to stop filming, and so that was that hurt.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Like, everyone laughed, but actually it really hurt. But I was like, I'll have to laugh. So I took a big bow. And
Gary.
Mine, it's not painful, but it left a massive psychological scar. In that we were on tour in the States, and we played a show in Boston, and I'd had a pretty heady night the night beforehand for a change. And first and foremost, we were doing a record store in-store, and I carried on drinking during the day and fell asleep doing the in-store in front of about 200 people, and woke up when it was finished. And then we were playing a show. The day after, we were playing a show in a bar. It was a last minute thing, and it was just a little bar in Boston, and there was no dressing room or anything like that. And so we played the show, and near the end of the gig, I was just like, oh, my stomach's just particularly feeling that good, and I managed to kind of get through the show, and then they said we're going to do an encore, and I was like, I really need to go to the hotel. I need to go to the hotel. And they said, you can do it. We'll just play one. We'll just play one track for the encore. And I played the track for the encore. And then it was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I literally ran to go to the bathroom, but the men's toilets were broken. And I was like, oh, for the love of God, what shall I do? My tour managers just went, go to the women's toilets. And I ran into the women's toilets, and literally there was music playing in the bar, and it didn't matter how loud that music was. I was louder by a long shot. And then a bunch of girls came into the toilet, and I was just kind of sat there, pretty much like this, like, oh, what the hell do I do now? And I waited for about 10 minutes, whilst cleaning myself off, of course, and then got up to leave, and a girl just stood in front of me and just said, good show.
Which one?
And I said, which show? And she said, you know.
Wow.
What about you?
No, there's no way I'm going anywhere near that story. I'm sorry. I can't top it. So
You've never had a bath since.
I have no story. I think we'll have to go to the last section of the show today, which is use it or lose it. Okay. So I've got these mat markers from Basque.
Oh yeah.
Which go down onto your mat to stop slippage.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, obviously, you can set up in the same place every time. Is this something you would use, or?
You'd have to teach me how to use it. I'm a little bit retarded. I'd spend the majority of my time just looking at it like, I don't know.
Nice.
I'd probably end up putting it on my kit as opposed to around my kit. It looks quite useful. It would save on tape. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, I because I do a lot of different things. I'm never necessarily using the same set for too long. So I think they would be brilliant if you had one kit, you know.
Yes.
But because I do a lot of different things, I'd need 7 or 8 different rugs, and that's just more storage and more, you know. So I'll stick with the tape method. But I can definitely see an advantage to using them, you know, especially if you're out on a long tour and you it's got to go down and stay in the same place every night.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of duct tape. It solves the world's problem.
If you can't fix it with it, it's not.
Kettle's blown up,
definitely broken.
duct tape. Car's broken down, duct tape.
Girlfriend troubles, duct tape. You know
duct
Well,
tape saves
on
everything.
that note, we've run out of time.
Duct
I knew by putting these two people on the sofa, I was heading for disaster.
Guest doesn't turn up, duct tape.
Duct tape.
But thank you very much for Gary Powell.
Need a guest to shut up?
Bob Knight. Thank you. See you next show. Hold that pose.
Duct tape. And I didn't swear.
Good luck, James. I wish you the best of luck.